Nice
So
to
I
meet
guess
you.
when you asked about the video thing, it could have been just if you wanted to be on video, but is this fine?
Oh yeah,
I guess you got dressed, but thank you for.
yeah. No, no problem. I don't mind.
But nice to meet you. How's what's going on today?
Well, I've been working on just getting ready for our baby with my wife. We got the car seat installed, and I had a session, uh, mixing production session with the Ableton certified trainer who's been working with me on a track of mine and also just giving me some production coaching. And he and I worked on an upcoming track. I've got actually another track, which I guess I can message to you. I can't believe I didn't already do this, but I can message you the links on that if you want to, like, I don't know, post them in show notes or something like that. But I just made a release, and my deadline was actually this program.
Cool. And you
So
got it completed?
I got it completed. Well, I feel like my tracks are never really complete, but
Well, you're satisfied enough with it, and
I'm satisfied enough. I completed it
I,
as best I could until I was either sick of it and going to light the whole project on fire, or until I don't know. But it's done for now.
I don't know. I don't know why I said that. But as a video editor, I feel the same way. I'm looking at this. There's always something more you can do.
So, yeah, there's always more we can do. It's a pretty common creative problem. So I am sending you now the link for the SoundCloud and the link for the YouTube video.
I think I heard something come in on my phone.
The track is called The
Okay.
Truth About Alcoholism.
You did? Were you taken up on my challenge that I gave you? If you wanted to create me a new music bed intro.
Oh, well, to be honest, I would like to take you up on that challenge. I haven't really had a chance to just yet. Um, but I don't know if I've actually heard your current intro. Like, do you have a current intro?
If you listen to my talk with Joey, I think that's the one I've been using currently.
Okay. I remember I listened to it, but thinking back, I can't recall exactly what it was. I'm sure that I heard it at the time, but because I remember I listened to the interview, but I'll have to go back and hear it. But yes, I would love to help you with
And
that.
I would definitely put your name all over that as well, wherever I can. I know podcast is not as much as a credit list,
Oh yeah, but still,
but
it's
as
and I can put my music to some kind of good use. And you know, speaking of Joey, I'm actually working on something for him as well. So that's why, like, you know, with us expecting the baby, my bandwidth in creating music is kind of minimal right now.
yeah,
About to become really minimal. But yeah, some of that bandwidth is actually working on a track for Joey and one of his partners. I guess that they're working on. I don't have tons of info, but they're like, yeah, we want something driving and awesome. And I think they were really liking something for like a retro wave kind of vibe. So
it's
I'm
not for that room 501, or is it?
Room Five. No,
Okay.
what's that
Yeah,
film?
that's like the horror thing that they're working on. It's in editing post right now.
Oh, no, I'm not doing. That's a separate.
Okay.
No, this is a reel for them, so I think it's probably a
Okay.
compilation of footage, and probably just for their personal use, or like I don't know if they're like in on a production company. Um, you know, I didn't ask too many questions. I was just like, "You need music? All right, I'm happy to help." Because it's Joey number one, and I just like having an excuse to make something for a purpose. Because that's different than me just sort of sitting there. And I love just making something just for myself, but like it's nice when you kind of have a mission and you feel like you're on a team. So
Yeah, I hear you there. For what I haven't been doing much video editing per se. I've been working for like Fox Sports Southwest, covering the teams up here, and I just recently said I want to do more video projects. I want to edit stuff, and I made it a purpose of mine to just reach out to people and say, "Hey, I want to create a video project, and I, I want to. Do you have anything that I can create something for you?" So
do you do it pro bono and just kind of like offer your services to people?
right now, yeah, and then
Really cool.
see where things go from there.
Yeah, I know that sometimes I come across people on Reddit that sort of do that when they're trying to, like, I don't know if they're building up their portfolio or if they just have like a little bit of time and they just want to work on some projects, but come across people that will do that either in like mixing or sound design, and some film people as well. I see that. But yeah, so I'm working on this project for Joey, and then yes, I would definitely love to work on something for you. And I believe I did send you the wave file, right, of that other track.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I
yeah,
was.
you're welcome to use that, or if you want little tidbits of any of my other materials as well, you're definitely welcome to use those. Just let me know, and I can get you what you need. But and then possibly I can get something else new made up for you.
But yeah, I know babies coming along. That's takes up a bit of someone's life there. I know that.
It's gonna be interesting. It's really like a new adventure, and my wife and I are like, because we haven't been married that long. Let's see, we got married last December, but so this will be like really, because since we got married, we're kind of like we're both doing the work thing, and we got a new apartment, and so it's just been regular living life stuff. And now all of a sudden, for the first time in our marriage, things are really going to be turned upside down in a way. And she's a teacher, so she's going to be off school for the summer, fortunately, and I'll be taking the vast majority of my time off. I'm working part-time with Walmart, and then I'm also doing substitute teaching and working on becoming a teacher, a first-year teacher for myself in the fall. But I won't be working too much when the baby first comes, and we're really just going to be tag teaming that little guy, that little Shine. But yeah, Joey will be an uncle too.
Is this his first? I know. I thought he said he was there others too, or was this his first time to be an uncle?
For Joey, yes. No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. We have an older brother, Joey's half brother, and my stepbrother Phil, and he actually has 2 kids. And
Cool.
yeah, he's 10 years older than I am, so kind of always been in a slightly different walk of life, but sometimes I forget.
Definitely exciting times to come for sure.
Yeah.
We all get them.
But
Like this.
I still like to create music as much as I can, and I've actually been like rapid fire making stuff because I think there's a part of me that knows that since we have the impending baby coming on and I'm not going to be doing as much stuff, I kind of wanted to produce as much as I could right before I'm going to be offline for a while. And that's a part of why I made the first track that I made, which was right when you first contacted me about getting interviewed. That one's called Did Not Turn Out How I Expected. And I don't know, I really am not super happy with that track. It's an okay experimental kind of art track, but I don't think I did the production that good. And then I made just this one I literally just finished up a couple days ago, The Truth About Alcoholism, which is sort of like a progressive house track. And I don't think you've heard this one yet, but hopefully you enjoy it. And if you're listening to this, definitely check out that track. And then here in another probably week or week and a half, I'll have another track that I can drop.
So what I'm gonna put the link to your SoundCloud up. What are you? What I refer to like some of these by the name, what they're called. Like I know you listed one already, but
yeah, well, let's see. Dr. Shine is the SoundCloud, and then the first one on there is Truth About Alcoholism, and then the next one on I guess if you're looking at my spotlight tracks, the next one is the one that I did about a month ago, and that was called Did Not Turn Out How I Expected, which is because it just didn't really turn out how I expected, which is fine. Sometimes that happens. And
if you wait for like a minute into that, I really like that part at a minute. It's like around a minute.
yeah. Let's see what it says. Yeah, that's basically like the drop. Yeah.
I like that part. I like it was all it was different, and it wouldn't like bad different.
It's kind of artsy, and it has a really, like, I know that when I was sharing it online a little bit, I had a couple like house music nerds that were just like, yeah, this song structure is really just like doesn't make any sense, and I was like, yeah, I know, but it's like, I don't know, I think it just confuses those listeners that are used to listening to more formulaic house music, which is a good thing. They deserve to be confused. They're assholes.
All right. I like to usually start off. I know we started a little bit before, but I like to always ask this question to like begin. I know we're just diving right in, and I like that too. I like the free flowing conversations as well. I don't like to stop that if I get that going. But what excites you other than what you just mentioned? I know babies coming along. What excites you the most? You just stated this to me, but say it on the record.
Yeah. Well, and this is in regards to like actually producing music. What excites me the most is the moment in creating a new track where the vision is just starting to take hold, and then you have that initial burst of inspiration, and you start really just like, usually I'm doing some kind of synth or playing a piano or something like that, and I'm getting the initial hooks laid in and the initial melodies. There's just something about, because it's like, you're sort of discovering them in a way in the creative process. I find that to be just so fun. And if it was up to me, I would just live there in that one little spot, just always, all the time. Like in an assembly line, I would just live in that spot, and then I would hand off the idea to somebody else to finish developing and producing, then somebody else to mix, somebody else to master, somebody else to market. But these days in the life of musician and a lot of creatives, it's kind of DIY, and you do so many bits and pieces of it yourself. But that portion in the process is probably my favorite.
Get into when you discovered what you like to do, and when was your passion discovered for making music, composing music?
Yeah, that was, well, I started trying to impress girls by playing guitar around 15, 16, and that didn't work too good. But gradually I started getting more into music, and music kind of became the lover that would never leave me, if you will. And I got really into songwriting, and I started like just going through and tearing apart the discographies of a lot of the greats. Like I became a huge Beatles fan kind of late in my teens and was just obsessed with them. And I was just like, I would go around to people when I was like 17, 18, and be like, hey, have you guys heard of this band, the Beatles? Have you actually listened to their stuff? People are like, yeah, man, we know who the Beatles are. Like, I kind of was getting around to that stuff like a little bit. I guess later than some who like grew up with it. But my parents were never like huge music nerds. Like they would listen to, some of their favorite music, but they weren't huge nerds the way that I eventually became and grew into. But yeah, so with that process, I just started really falling in love with songwriting. And then later throughout my 20s, gradually fell into production. I think I'm more at home in composition and production than I am in other elements of the creative process, such as like performing, for example.
And I like to always ask it. It's great to be grateful for. What are you grateful for the most, or what?
I'm grateful for the family that I'm beginning now with my wife Lexi and our cat Gandalf and our upcoming son, God willing. Yeah, I think that that's probably the main purpose and drive in my life. And I'm, of course, grateful for all my family. Grateful for the passion of music, being able to make sounds, play with sounds.
What do you think is harder for someone just starting out, or to someone who's trying to keep it going?
I think that one of the hardest things is it's daunting the way that there's such an oversaturation of very talented and creative people who are doing creative things such as making videos and making music that you kind of feel like another number, and that's good because you are another number and you should sort of feel not that special in it, because that helps drive you to really cultivate yourself and examine why are you serious about trying to learn the skills that you're learning and create the things you're trying to create. So but yeah, that can seem really challenging and daunting. It's not an easy thing to face when you're just getting going, but it's a part of it.
So I'll get to that in a minute, but first I want to just ask this. Talk about a dream pose. Like, I know you're about to start putting something together for like a reel for Joey, but like talk about like a dream project that you wish you're going to have one day.
Yeah, man. Well, one thing that I've always really wanted to do is to do like house music or electronic uh, music covers of old classic 60s songs. And I actually did one remix of the song Na 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 Kiss Him Goodbye. The one that's like, hey, 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 goodbye, na 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 na.
Nice.
And I wasn't quite as good at like production and mixing as I am now. You're always growing and improving. So like, I feel like I didn't really do that good of a job at it and didn't do it justice, but it was a lot of fun to work on. But I really want to like do more stuff like that. And one dream of mine is to do Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys, like a really banging electronic cover of that song with probably a lot of vocal stuff, vocoder stuff, and just really make it kind of futuristic, but not like in a really I like cheesy, trendy kind of way, but try to make like a classic, just electronic, but still paying tribute to the original cover of that song.
Okay. You mentioned that one song. I don't know the name of it. The right before the na na na. But
Oh,
what was that one?
an old
And
song?
then you mentioned the Beach Boys song. So like the whole thing with like, not that I'm saying instantly wrong. I know stealing is not good and all, and but like
Feeling is great.
when
All our
you, I know there's such thing as what are they called, parodies?
Yeah, well,
Is
you got parodies and remixes and spoofs and covers, and there's a whole vocabulary as far as stealing goes,
and
especially
it almost like makes it okay. You can put your spin on it, and you can just
for
call it,
sure.
this is a parody or a spoof.
Yeah, and I think you really should, like that's a part of growing as an artist. And it's also just a lot of fun, but it's something that we do more and more. Like you've seen music just go more and more in that direction. But even back in like the 50s and 60s, they were all covering each other's tunes and doing versions. Like a lot of, you've got some songs, like for example in the 60s, that people think like, uh, what is it, Turn Turn was by the Byrds, or I don't know. There's some songs that like, it's like you think that one band did it, but then you go back and a previous band had done it. Then you go back and a previous band had done it. Then you go back and like Bob Dylan was the writer or something like that.
Yeah, I do notice that. Like, I'll listen to oh, I hear this song, and then oh,
Yeah,
I
or
hear the song again. It sounds completely different. Someone else did, and you never realize it. Oh, people and bands, different bands make the same song.
it's like you've got some people who are maybe a little bit younger, or maybe they're not so young now, but like when Green Day did "I Fought the Law," they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a really cool song," but oh, well, no, actually, The Clash wrote "I Fought the Law." Nope, wrong. The Clash didn't write "I Fought the Law." It was Bobby Fuller Five. It's the people who did the "I Fought the Law" all the way back in like the late '50s, I think. But actually, they probably didn't even write it. Those are just the earliest ones that I know of.
You go back and do some research, maybe, and see, oh, who's the original on that.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that like when I become a teacher, I'll definitely be making my students do all this shit.
Research music. Like, there's a whole
Yeah,
like in anything. Like, and I'm a part of the Toastmasters group, and they just brought across this new curriculum, and you have like 5 levels in a project. You have the first 3 are like basic stuff. You got to cover the fundamentals of music.
yeah.
Fundamental, just like with any class, get the fundamentals down, and then you get to the fun stuff.
And you got to scaffold it. You got to build on things. And that's why, if you're thinking about getting into something like a craft like film or music, you need to really start as young as you can and as soon as you can, and start learning about just anything and everything, and gradually start narrowing your focus based on what you're most interested in.
Cool. So, going back to stuff that you did, what is your biggest achievement?
Well,
Maybe with
I don't
music, or
know that I
maybe
have
in
like
life.
a lot of like really big achievements, but um, it's not exactly music related. But I did publish a book of poetry like a year and a half ago. That was pretty cool. Um, one achievement is getting married, and another achievement in music, I did the album for the first short film that Joey really worked on, which was what was that called? the deadly butterfly. So I thought that was really cool. I'm hoping they send. I thought that was a good little film. I hope they send it off to
Yeah,
festivals or
I
something.
actually I chipped in on that one. I have a copy of that myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. What did you do on it?
No, I just they had it up on what, Kickstarter, or and I just
Oh, I got you. So
yeah, I
you helped produce it in a way.
mhm.
That's awesome. I did not know that. What a cool connection. But
And
yeah,
the other one
yeah,
that
really neat.
Room 501, I did the same thing. So I'm following like what he does.
Yeah, and that one I actually don't know very much about that project, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it once it's. You said it's in post production still.
It's the latest update I saw from one of his partners was it's in post.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Actually, which it made me think of you as like I wonder if he's the one who's worked on this. They they got it's slipping my mind, a composer for it.
Oh
They got
yeah.
a
Well, I love everything that those guys are working on, and I think that you know they've got a lot of talent like in that group and some of the different projects that I hear just that they're thinking about, and then like with this one, the Room 5-1. Um, I can't wait to see it, and I really think that they all have a really bright future ahead of them.
in your initial email to me here. You say you like to connect your music with more potential listeners, do other film projects like you said a minute ago. If list like top three of filmmakers that you would like to like who's work currently or who's maybe in the past or maybe in the future. Some
Yeah,
I know
well,
Joey's one of them, but
oh, like
let's
filmmakers I would want to work with
yeah.
specifically. Oh man, well, um, yeah, I definitely want to keep working with Joey. I'd love to work with uh, Dylan, who is his partner in crime that he's been doing some stuff with. Um, let's see. There there's one film that I saw a while back, but the name of the guy is escaping me. But yeah, I don't know that I'm like well enough connected with filmmakers, like just being out here in Texas specifically, that I feel like I could name drop uh, specific like ones that are working that I would want to like definitely work with right now. But um, but yeah, I mean, hopefully, I'm happy to like anybody who I come across that I feel like has a good vision. Uh, I would definitely love to begin working on some type of film projects in the future.
So you mentioned Texas. I know you're in Austin, right?
Yeah, that's right. And they actually there's a substantial film community out here. I'm not really like engaged much as like an active part of that community. I mean, it's down in Austin. They do like a lot of like festival stuff, and once we have our baby and he gets a little bit older, that's actually something that I want to become much more of a part of. I want to discover that scene a little bit, but as of now, I'm way on the periphery of that.
You ever check into like that city limits, Austin city limits, or
Awesome.
the South by Southwest?
Yeah, man, those are so much fun. I haven't been yet, but I intend on going to the upcoming one as soon as I can, as soon as it's feasible for me.
I know. Memory serves me right. They're around October with all the big festivals in October. They both going on at that time in October.
Yeah, let me look.
right? I know I was in Austin for like a pre some kind of wedding celebration, wedding party. I guess you could call it a bachelor's party, but
It's well,
and
let's
now
see. It's actually October 4th for 2019.
yeah, and 'cause I was in Austin for the party around it was October 12th. I think that the South by Southwest had just ended, but Austin City Limits was still going on.
Yeah, man, that stuff is so much fun. And there's, you have a whole array of like obviously huge artists that participate in those events, but you've got a lot of like smaller ones too. And that's really, I think, where my dreams are set now that like I've got like I feel like a little bit more competent of a producer, and I've begun working on some of these smaller films and getting a few credits to my name. That's really where my dreams are, is to be able to start connecting with people that actually even like just the smaller artists that participate and in some of these festivals. ACL being a sweet example, but even some of the smaller stuff that's like kind of on the road to ACL. Over the next 3 years, I think I really want to engage more in the film communities. And I feel like they're kind of like hard to crack into in a way, especially if you're not like actually making the films. Because I don't really know anyone personally. So it's sort of like, where do you go to get started in something like that?
Yeah, I kind of kind of like how I started out with this. I just went on Twitter one day reaching out. I just wanted to like start connecting with filmmakers of the world. And I was just going to Twitter using the search feature on Twitter, and I
Really?
connected
That's how you
first with
get into podcasting?
yeah with I connected first with Jordan Brady. If you ever hear, he's done some stuff in Texas actually. Stuff with
Is he a filmmaker?
he's a commercial filmmaker or commercial film director.
Oh,
He's done some comedy. If you ever heard of, he has this comedy series on Amazon Prime on Amazon, maybe one thing on Prime, but called I Am Battle Comic. Yeah, he was my first one. I just started reaching out on Twitter. I just want to start connecting.
Twitter is probably like the social media platform that I regularly use the least. Like, I do a little bit of Facebooking, mostly for family. I do, um, like, I've got like my music ones, like SoundCloud, and getting more into Reverb Nation. Um, I'm on YouTube. And then Instagram, I use quite a bit. When I was doing more like writing of like poetry and whatnot, I was all over Instagram. But now, like, my Instagram is primarily just like my music account. But Twitter is the one that like I like it. I feel like it's super useful, but I just haven't really invested the time to like regularly engage in it and meet people through it.
One thing I see,
It takes a lot of time.
something me being in like an avid sports fan. I'm from the Houston area, so I follow the Houston teams, the
Oh,
Astros. It's great. Like Astros and hockey are my two favorite. I love just sitting on watching Twitter. I set up feeds using on the tweet deck,
yeah.
and I'll just watch people chime in. I'm not. I'll chime in eventually sometimes with something, but that's sometimes how I'll just sit there watch a game. Like it's like almost the new radio Twitter.
Huh. Yeah, that's cool. And You know,
not even listening or watch on TV. I'll just sit there and watch hashtag Astros, or you can combine a few of the hashtags as well. I'll just sit there and watch the game on Twitter, and it's hilarious for baseball.
that's fun. And you know, even outside of the realm of sports, I bet you can do that with many things. Like, you know, they always talk about live tweeting like during certain shows and stuff like that. And I know that like, you know, Lexi has gotten me more into American Idol, for example. Like they do stuff with American Idol, but we always watch it on Hulu, so we're like always a day behind on that stuff. So, you know, we don't really engage
Yeah.
real time. But yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe that'll be the way that I actually get more into Twitter.
But I just tweetdeck.twitter.com, and you can like make collections of tweets that you like and share them out. Like I just discovered that actually. Discovered that you can do that. It's kind of like if you heard of Tumblr.
Yeah,
That's like I really haven't gotten too much into that, but what I've seen of that is kind of, you can make posts that like you can scroll through one post on Tumblr. Twitter, you can have like a collection and it has its own link. It's like your own little personal Twitter feed that, and you can share the link with people. It's like, oh, these tweets I like. A collection of tweets.
Tumblr is another great one that I really want to use more, but just don't. I know that when I was doing more writing, I had just started a Tumblr, and I was intending on using it a lot more for that. But gradually, as my free time becomes less and less, I started channeling all of my creative efforts into just trying to do just one thing, which ended up being like producing and making music. So I'm pretty late with social media nowadays, but Tumblr is another great one that I'd love to use more.
Before I get off this topic, I gotta ask. Being music, I know it was a big thing for like especially music artists, but I know one time, maybe 10 years ago, one of the first. It wasn't the first I know, but MySpace. You ever were you on that, or do you have you used
MySpace,
that?
I started getting online with music uh, more after MySpace, I feel like, had peaked. So like by the time I arrived on it, like there was other stuff that I felt like was more relevant to what I wanted to do. I remember when I was like in high school and middle school and stuff, like I would listen to stuff on MySpace, but I never really did much as far as like uploading my own stuff.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, you create a MySpace and you added the music right there on your profile.
Yeah, yeah.
But today, I see that more like iTunes is like that way a little bit. It's actually more of a social network. iTunes, you can
Oh,
follow people
huh.
if
Well,
especially
that's good for them. I mean, that's the way everything's going in the future. I steer away from iTunes like it's the devil. I've always hated
yeah.
iTunes. I feel like they stranglehold you and they try to force you into like functioning and doing everything like just through them. But I'm more of a Spotify user, which I guess you can be a little bit social on Spotify in terms of sharing things with people and sharing your playlists and following each other's playlists and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been noticing that like a lot of well, like I like to listen to Garth Brooks. He's not on iTunes at all either. So he's I think he's exclusively on Amazon actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've been hearing that like iTunes they do that, and a lot of people aren't happy with it.
Yeah. No, I haven't used iTunes in well over probably 2 years. I love Spotify though.
I just actually got this podcast up on Spotify. Spotify and Google playlist.
Yeah, I've used Google Play a little bit, and sometimes when I'm uploading tracks, like I use something called it's like CD Baby, but what's it called? Well, whatever the hell it's one of those services, and they upload like your music tracks to just like all the different main platforms, including Spotify and Google Play and Deezer, even Pandora. But I don't think I've ever had anything play on Pandora. That's another goal I'd like to do. Have something on Pandora that's able to come up in people's feeds.
Getting the cat on.
Yeah, Gandalf is the real star of the show here.
For the, because I'll put this on YouTube as well.
Nice.
If we're talking, he has his cat on the screen right now. You can see it if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, he's the real star.
Get a lot of these. I have more for like on the acting side. I was talking to a lot of actors, so I have questions for actors. Let's see.
Yeah, and the coolest thing too is if you ever happen to be networking or talking to anybody that is like making films, or even actors that are trying to make some videos for themselves, and they need music, I'd be happy to connect with people that are interested in collaborating.
That's how I've been trying to reach out to actors. Like, you need a highlight reel? Let me edit it for you.
Yeah.
I've been doing so. Michael here will produce a little music bed for you, and I'll put it all together, create you a little highlight reel. That would actually be a sweet deal.
Yeah.
Get a little customized music that's not been heard before, or maybe a reverb of it, a remix of it.
Yeah, and the stuff that I can make for people is so much better than the things you're gonna find in this like sample libraries.
The stock.
And yeah, stock music, stock footage. I mean, that gets old really quick if you're trying to get good quality content.
Yeah, it works for like maybe one complete thing, and then I mean, I guess that's if you use it once, then you need to find something else.
Yeah. That's one thing I thought about doing, is actually making music for stock music sites. Like the one that sticks out in my mind is something called Pond 5. I feel like I shouldn't even advertise that.
Yeah.
People are gonna like hear me and be like, "Oh, Pond 5, I'll go check that out." I'm like taking away customers from myself. But no, it's like there's so many people like trying to do that and uploading things in like every category and trying to sell it, that it's just like there's not really any good way to connect with a market of people that are actually looking. Sort of like they take all of the personality and the relationship out of the process. So yeah, I wasn't like super interested in doing that. It's like you do all that hustling and uploading things and making things just to sell a song for $6.99 maybe to some random person who happens to stumble upon your profile once a year. It's just like, why? What's the point? I'd rather work on stuff I'm passionate about. with people who I can connect to personally.
Make something and work as part of a team on a
Yeah,
film project.
I think that is so much more fun.
Let's see. Oh yeah. I heard this question asked before by kind of my podcast inspiration, Lewis Howes in the School of Greatness. Got to plug him always too. If one for him, he kind of inspired me to do this. I heard him ask, "What is one question you wish people would ask you that either don't ask you or maybe ask you more of?"
Really good question.
And then answer it.
Well, let's see. Having never thought of this before, I don't know. Well, let me think of, I guess one question that I would like somebody to ask me. Well, one fun one is, what why do you make music? And that's something that I feel like I could always have a different answer for, because there's so many possibilities. But one reason I make music is to be able, I mean, obviously to connect with others, but it's because when I first started listening to music and really getting into music, and you have that kind of like magic of communication, something that's like way beyond words that is being communicated from this complete stranger through the ether to you. I've always wanted to participate in that, and I've always wanted to kind of talk back and communicate back into that. So there's one possibility. Here's another good one. One question people can ask me is, how can I pay you a lot of money to offer you to keep producing music? And I would say, okay, well, let me give you my Venmo or my PayPal.
I like it. PayPal, Venmo. I just learned about the Cash App.
Yeah, that's another good one. And in some seriousness to that statement, that reminds me that one thing I really want to do is get a Patreon set up. And then, like, as I continue to build up like a catalog of work, and hopefully some kind of a regular fan base, it'd be great to have a Patreon in place to where I can start being able to like accept donations and be able to custom make track. Like if somebody, for example, has like a certain, they love the idea that I have the dream of making like remixes of 60s tracks. If they have a certain 60s track that they would love to hear, they could donate to the Patreon, and then for them, I would make that particular track. So that's one goal that I have for myself.
And you listed some more here. What are the other goals? Some other goals that you have as well.
I'm going back to see what I said because I don't remember. How bad is that? Oh yeah. to actually get my first teaching job, since I am working on being a high school teacher. Like, I want to teach career technology education classes where I'd be able to teach audio visual stuff, and ideally be able to teach like some sound design, like some of the different music production and sound design things that I work on. So that's one goal that I have, is to get that first job. And another goal is to build up a healthy routine as a new dad. I think Lexi and I are well on our way to putting that all together and achieving that, but we're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle, and that's our new baby. So sometime over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have him.
It's going to be a lot coming ahead, and after that in the next year.
Oh yeah. It'll be overwhelming, but I've got a good partner in crime.
Wish you all the best with that coming up for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
And then last one to just talk. I know it's probably obvious being a music you want to, but you listed that last one.
I'd like to get a track signed to a record label or on a popular playlist, or featured on a maybe a music blog. That's something that, I think that, a lot of artists want something like that to happen. And, it's definitely possible if you keep plugging away. That's something that I haven't achieved yet, but I believe that over the next year or so, I think that's a realistic goal for me.
When you think of record labels, or any particular person comes to mind, or people, or
actually, there's this one label that I was looking at recently. I hope I saved that link. I'm not sure where that is. Well, one label that I absolutely love is Mousetrap. That's a much bigger label, though. I think it's pretty challenging to get on a label like that. But, I'm looking at more like probably smaller indie labels.
I was thinking if we could find a person or maybe a group and share this podcast with episode out and tag them on it.
Oh yeah.
Who would you tag?
That's a great question. Let me see.
Because that's what I started think this last week. My goal is to help connect, bring together all the film community, film makers everywhere, whether you direct, whether you're an editor, you're on the music side, what your craft services. I actually today, this weekend's been crazy for me. I've been a lot going on, just not just this weekend, but over the last year. But today, I was at this Toastmasters conference, and you think if you ever heard of the Toastmasters organization, they promote improved public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that has connections in real life because there's public speakers out. But today, this club was putting on an event on the event was about how to get sponsorships and how to get we have these events for contests, but I was relating it to craft services, and you need to provide food for the crews on set. So, and this event was how do you get restaurants and organizations to donate food to your event or your set? And I was actually I recorded the audio of it of this panelist, and I was going to put that up on my podcast. And it was like I was at this panelist, and I was going to put that up. So like I forgot where I was going, kind of with this, but we got into this.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's cool. As you were talking, I just looked it up and I found one label that is kind of been on my radar that I've been, I haven't reached out to them yet because I've been waiting until I have like a couple more tracks ready that I can actually send them something, like some of these newer tracks I've been working on. But they're called Noobish Records. Noobish Records. So I was actually gonna submit a demo to them.
Sitting here just changing my speakers. My headsets keep cutting out.
I'm gonna send you that link. I sent you a link to Noobish Records.
I heard. I just have to check that out too. But yeah, send me all your links as well. Like I know a lot of the SoundCloud tracks, but anything you want specifically featured as well.
Yeah. I just sent you the SoundCloud and the YouTube of that new track.
Trying to change my speakers over. All right. Do a quick sound test real quick. Get to wrapping up here for the night.
Sure, yeah. I got a YouTube dinner.
So one thing I always like to ask when I'm like wrapping up are some bonus questions. Usually I'll like send a list of questions and then I'll leave these questions off. But first question, I took a kind of a spin-off. We were talking about spin-offs earlier. A spin-off from podcaster who asked a question. He had the question 3 truths. Well, I'm spinning it into movies and film, and so I call it 3 movies. What are 3, or maybe it's just one, or 3 movies or roles or TV roles? Could be movie or TV. What are roles that you see yourself as, like you see yourself in, that movies that you have seen or TVs that you're seeing, like a role that you see yourself as?
Like a character that reminds me of myself, kind of.
Yeah.
That's tough. I thought you were gonna ask me 3 movies that I admire.
Or it can be that too.
Well,
Joey was stumped on that too when he talked on.
because I kind of like that as a challenge. Let me come back to that one. But I will say, as far as movies that I admire, and I'll say ones that specifically I love soundtrack on because that's one thing that I like to listen for. The first one that comes to mind is Ex Machina, which is a film that it's a sci-fi that I love. I think that has a fantastic score. Um, Another score I love is from the TV show Stranger Things. That's an easy one, but still really good. And I want to try to think of one that maybe has a character that I feel like I could resonate with. All right, here's one, and it's maybe not like, I don't know, I feel like I don't resonate with this character in like a lot of ways, but maybe in some ways, I guess I kind of identify with him, but I would say Hank Moody from Californication. I
Cool.
don't resonate with him in like maybe some of the obvious ways. Like I don't think that like I'm like a sexaholic the way that he is, and like
All
I'm not
right. Cool.
rambunctious, especially not these days. I mean, maybe 10 years ago I was, um, but yeah, he's a good kind of tragic hero, and he has a love for words. Hank Moody has a love for words, being obviously a writer, and I feel like I've got a love for words as well.
Next question of two more. What is something that you want to learn from someone who has seen success? Who do you want to learn from?
Who do I want to learn from, or what do I want to learn?
Who and or let's go. Who do you want to learn from?
Who do I want to learn from? The guys who actually are from Austin, Texas, who did the Stranger Things soundtrack. I want to learn from those guys how they were able to cultivate their craft to the level of quality and professionalism that obviously made their work that good. And also, I want to learn, what they did as far as their business to be able to ascend to the place where they were able to, score such an awesome gig. I forget those guys' names. I should probably know that, but too many things to remember in this world.
The composers of Stranger Things. We can just say that.
Yeah.
And before I ask fun one, where do you hang out the most? We talked a little bit about this before, but where do you like to just have a conversation on social media? What's your favorite?
Oh, it's my favorite online hangout spot.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Instagram or
I do Instagram quite a bit, but if I'm being perfectly honest, probably I'm on Reddit more.
okay.
And yeah, I don't. There's on Reddit. There's a kind of newish music subreddit called Indie Music Feedback that I've been trolling on a lot, giving feedback to others, and like sometimes I'll submit tracks there. And I don't know, it's become a little bit more popular, and you never really know what you're going to get. That can be both fun sometimes and kind of annoying. It's like sometimes I want to engage with people that are like a little more serious, that are like into production and making music, but you have people at all levels that you're engaging with, so it can kind of be like an anything goes when it comes to music conversation. I just like having, good, fruitful conversations about music. But I'll show you another, as a bonus answer to your bonus question, I'll show you another cool hangout spot that I have, and that is literally right here where I'm sitting. At my keyboard.
An artist's home.
Yep. That's really where I do most of my hanging out.
And where do you have your content? Again, websites. Do you have a website or?
Yeah, I don't have a website yet. That's on my list, but I still feel like I'm building up my social media artist sites with good quality content. I feel like I haven't fully, utilized those to the full scope of how I could. So I feel like I might as well do that before I worry about sinking the time into making a website, right? I don't know. Some might disagree with me on that. They're like, no, get a website. And I'm like, well, give me more time to make a website. But yeah, I think that the vast majority of my content that I make is first SoundCloud, second YouTube, and then distant third is Instagram.
And yeah, definitely. I can put links up to all three of those. Just make sure I know. I don't think I have your YouTube yet, but you can get them all to me. I can put them up.
Yeah, I just actually sent them to you.
Yeah.
SoundCloud and YouTube is fine.
And I do that in that format. And my bonus questions, that was the time for just to plug all your content, all your work. And now we're at the final question. Why do you think film industry is important in our world?
I think in our world, for our society to continue to grow, and we have a big ass society now, and it's become very rich with just user content and social media, but maybe nowadays more than ever, it's important that we have a mirror to be able to look at ourselves in a sociological way, in a psychological way, in a personal way. Who are we as human beings? What's important to us on a cultural level and personally? And, film allows us to be able to do that. Film is an art form that provides us with that very multi-dimensional mirror. So it's absolutely essential. And, that goes for the role of all art, but I think film is one of the most poignant art forms.
All right. Well, again, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. I know some busy days are ahead.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. This was fun.
And have to get back on talking again, maybe in a year after you get a few tracks out and get a little more known. We'll have to have another conversation.
Yeah, I'd like that. And then in the meantime, we'll touch base and see if we can help each other out here and there, maybe collaborate on something. But yeah, I look forward to seeing some more casts by you.
Yeah, I really like, just like you said, I really like the stuff that Joey and his team have been producing. I see myself like helping some with them as well too. So I really like what they do. I watched him in some of his, especially I just mentioned this before. because it was a big part of the Texas filmmaker showcase. Getting that in my Texas Film Commission is a big thing, and he was a part of this. The Long Road Home.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was awesome.
That was pretty awesome. I watched that whole thing, and my dad he told me stories of all that stuff. All that did was confirm his stories. Like, holy crap! Like this,
Yeah,
there was some sick and twisted thing that went on over there,
yeah.
and that was a big thing that he was part of.
Yeah, I
And
was so happy that Joey got to be involved in that project. That was really cool. I enjoyed that too.
and Texas, right on Fort Hood base, Army base, and everything. Really huge for Texas. Glad National Geographic and decided to put that story to life.
Yeah, me too.
But this has been fun, and I will let you go and conclude today.
Yeah, live long and prosper.
I like the until next time.
Yep. Until next time. Well, have a good night, man.
All right, you too.